Hiya, it's Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton, joined today by Neil Atkinson. It's our first time on the video together, isn't it, Neil?
Is it? Is that the case?
Feels nice.
I'm very into the idea of as much fun on video as possible. I'm very much onto the idea of getting off the point, so I apologise about that in advance. Just to let you know, I bought some beautiful hummus last night from Co-op, £1.20, sweet chilli. I came back in and said, it's mad they sell you this stuff for £1. It's just like, what £1 for this?
What is your hummus game, Neil? I'm interested.
Well, any and all, as much as often as possible, first and foremost. But I had to choose last night between sweet chilli and caramelised onion, and I went with sweet chilli, so maybe that tells a story.
Yeah, Sam's got a strong hummus game, hasn't he? He just often buys a big bit of pita bread and just eats it in the office, which is it's mad for me because I don't eat hummus. So
it's mad that they sell it for £1.20. It's the best food on the planet, and they just practically giving it away. Should we do the Reds?
Yeah, we'll do the Reds. We'll talk about the Reds since it is Talking Reds. First thing then, Neil, Tony Cascarino has been talking about salaries, compared him to Clive Allen.
I want for the teenagers.
to be honest, it blew me away. But apparently Clive Allen was someone who scored 49 goals in one season and then 15 in the next. And Tony Cascarino sort of hinting at Salah maybe doing the same this season.
Well, Carragher made a really good point last night on Monday Night Football, where he said that Rush one season gets 47, I think it is, and then the following season he gets 25, and he doesn't get near 47 again. And 25 is brilliant. Yeah. 25 is a load of goals. And I think that all the way through, doing the review with Sean Rodgers, Sean was saying all the way through the summer, well, he may well just have a season next season where he gets 30, and we've got to be planned for the idea of him getting 30. So far he's got 3, and it's worth remembering 2 of them are key goals. One's the opener against West Ham, and I think that's a key goal for me. The first goal in any game is a big goal,
especially the first game of the season.
Exactly. Even if you go on and win 4-0, it's still a big goal to have got the first one sorted. And he also scores the only goal, the winner, against Brighton. So you can put points literally next to his name so far this season with the goals he's scored. So yeah, he makes it 3-0 against Southampton. It's a tap in from 1 yard. I do think he needs to relax a little bit, and I do think that he's on his own back. I get the impression, forget Tony Cascarino and forget even me or you or Jamie Carragher, forget who you want. I suspect the person who's most on Mohamed Salah's back is Mohamed Salah. Yeah. And I think he needs to relax a little bit. It'd be lovely if he could get a big, good goal against Napoli. I think the idea that he turns one in from 18 yards, cutting in on his left foot, would be no bad thing. But I think him scoring any goal in that game, a first goal or a second goal, I think it'd be really important. I'd start him partially just so, he can relax himself, he can feel as though he's back doing what he does a little bit. And I'd also start him because he only plays 65 minutes against Chelsea, so I'm not worried. I'm nowhere near worried. The other thing as well is he's pinning teams back, he's creating space for teammates, he's playing absolutely fine. And there's another thing on top of all the other things, which is he's similar to this stage last season.
Yeah.
It wasn't as though at this stage last season we were doing these sorts of things or doing shows and we were saying, my God, he's the best player in the world. That was... He was
actually missing loads of chances last season.
Yeah.
And he's only got one less league goal this season, which Carragher highlights. But he also pointed out that in the last 2 games, I think it is, he's lost possession and sort of been sloppy in possession, which I think is a case of what you're saying, where he's just frustrated with himself.
Yeah.
And he's probably trying to force things too much, and I think you're seeing signs of that, aren't you?
You are, and I think that would be one of the reasons I think why the manager took him off against Chelsea, is that we saw that, for instance, in the Paris Saint-Germain game, that it's him trying to force the issue a little bit too much that leads to them getting back and making it 2-2. And I think that the manager may well have thought, you know what, I don't want this on the pitch right now. I could just, we don't need to do this to him. He doesn't need to do this to himself, and it's not necessarily going to help us at this stage. After he had what I would refer to as a genuinely quite promising first half, the ball to Firmino is a really good example, I think, of someone who is clearly still reading the game really well, still doing the right thing. If that's a slightly better ball, Firmino gets it under control and slots it bottom corner, we're talking about another fabulous assist, another great contribution. The numbers are very similar. There was something I retweeted last night from Sam Maguire about this, a video running through how his numbers were working around this time last season. I'm really relaxed about it. As I say, I feel as though you are. Most Liverpool supporters are more relaxed than Mo Salah himself. Yeah. And it's interesting, again, Klopp and Van Dijk have both come out and emphasised, Mo just needs to know that we're there for him in the same way that he's there for us. That's literally how this works. Teams ebb and flow. Who's doing the business for you shifts. The other day, Mo Salah doesn't sort it out, so Daniel Sturridge bangs one in from 30 yards in the top corner. It's how football works. It's how football's always worked. That sometimes you get someone else digs you out, the whole team, or an individual. And by the way, it wasn't like he was digging out Mo Salah. It wasn't like he'd missed 7 sitters. It's a great clearance off the line by Rudiger. And apart from that, they're all not quite hard half chances for a player of Salah's chance. It was class, sorry, the 3/4 chances. But all right, he'd not quite stuck them in the back of the net. But it wasn't like he was missing Rosenthal-style opportunities from 6 yards.
Yeah, I'm really into Van Dijk being nice to his teammates as well. Up our lads being nice to each other, especially when Man United players aren't quite being that to each other. But we'll talk about that another time. Another thing that Carragher said, which I found really interesting, Neil, is he called Sturridge and Shaqiri the perfect pair. He was full of praise for them. He said he'd been proved wrong by Sturridge in what he thought before the season. I think that's the case for most of us. But absolutely. I'm also interested to check in with you about what you think about Shaqiri so far, because I know you were someone who was critical of him before he signed, but has he turned out to be a different style of player than what you maybe thought?
I think he was. I think you see the good and the bad in the Chelsea substitute appearance. The Chelsea in the League Cup game against Chelsea, not the Chelsea substitute appearance. I think in the League Cup game, I think you saw, the manager, whatever the manager said afterwards, he was quite clearly frustrated with him at the final whistle. And I think that you saw a lot of good stuff in the first half. He has that shot just before half-time in the League Cup game, which was ridiculous. But then immediately afterwards, he plays a lovely, sumptuous little through ball through to Sturridge. And he seemed angry with himself after the shot, not for it being a bad shot, but because he knew he shouldn't have taken it. And I think that's what I've enjoyed about him, is feeling as though he's trying to force the issue in the right way so far. His substitute appearance, yes, he misses the opportunity, and it's a really good chance. It's arguably, it's one of the best chances of the game, probably Liverpool's best chance of the game that he misses. But the flip side of it is that it's a really good run, and he's put himself in the position for it. So far, I'm pleased with what we've seen in terms of, I think we've seen, and I loved his cameo at Leicester. I thought it was terrific, and it was exactly what Liverpool needed out of the game, and he just went and did what Liverpool needed out of the game. So far I am pleased with it. I think the worry is, little things like that second half League Cup performance against Chelsea, where I think he got lost in his own head a little bit, felt as though, maybe felt as though there was an onus on him because we'd lost that lead, or that lead was ebbing away a little bit. I think he's not turned up as the finished article, and I think that's absolutely fine. It's going to take a little bit of time for him. For me, for Sturridge and Shaqiri, the key test still hasn't happened. The key test isn't actually these games. The key test isn't what they're doing off the bench. It's going to be this next block of games after the next international fixture, where I think it wouldn't surprise me if you and I did a video like this at the end of that run, and it's possible that Shaqiri and Sturridge have started more games than Salah and Mane, or Salah and Firmino. That Liverpool have used that as an opportunity to get some rest into the legs of their star three, and instead you look at Huddersfield and you look at Cardiff and you look at Watford and you look at these sorts of games where, a couple of them will be difficult. Watford will be difficult, but that there you might see Sturridge and Shaqiri occasionally start. Last season we were starting Solanke around this sort of time when it kicks in there, and that's where I think we'll really have a sense of exactly whether or not they are the perfect pair. That's where the challenge is on for them, when the games that we expect them to be the best player on the pitch, and how they go about being the best player on the pitch for Liverpool. Yeah, absolutely. And Gareth Roberts has been very excited this week, and there's a reason he's been very excited. That's because of the OneFootball app, and here he is being excited and telling you more about it.
Okay, so the Anfield app has given OneFootball, an app you can get from the App Store, a shout today. The reason being is that I use that app. I haven't downloaded every football app in the world, but I have downloaded this one. It works really well. It's got information about all the teams, all the leagues. You can pick what information you want, and you will get that as a push notification. You can follow live matches in terms of getting notifications of goals, of big incidents, of half-time, full-time, that kind of thing. It's got transfer rumours on there as well, which we know at the Anfield app are always really popular. So there's everything on there that you'd need, really. And if you go on there as well, on the App Store, you'll see that over 32,000 people have rated this app, and they've rated it so far 4.8 out of 5. Now, I'm always keeping an eye on how the Anfield app's done, but that is some going on the App Store, so well done to them. And that is why we are endorsing OneFootball.
Yeah, nice one to Gareth for that, and to OneFootball as well. More than today, Neil. Alisson has been coming out. He's been talking a lot, it seems, this morning. The Echo have been all over. They've been all over Alisson, talking a lot. One of the things he said is that he almost stayed at Roma in the summer when the offer came in from Liverpool, which is interesting. He cited the place and how he would spend nights walking around the streets and the Trevi Fountain and the Coliseum. And we went to Rome. We had a lovely time, didn't we? So I can't blame him, really.
I honestly, like the extent to which that makes me love him even more, because it was mad. If you've not been to Rome, the strangest thing about walking around Rome is, no matter almost whichever city in the world you're from, and I'm going to presume you're from a really rather good city like Liverpool, or anywhere else, what you end up sort of staring at in wonder in Rome is like their 73rd best thing.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a proper, like it's not a proper event, or there's not like an exhibition there, or there's a guide or anything. You just turn the corner and you're like, oh my lord.
There's the one building went past in the taxi and we were like, that's absolutely unreal. And Angela goes, oh, it's not 1,000 years old, so no one likes it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's absolutely
corner,
wild.
yeah, it's every corner, and you're like, oh god, this is brilliant. And they really are like that whole thing. We just leave it lying around. You want to get a look at this, and you're like, oh good god, Rome's unbelievable. So I can well understand that. The idea of being completely seduced by it over a period of time. It is a gorgeous, beautiful city, and if you've got the opportunity to go, do.
Yeah, and shout out to Angelo, who was our tour guide.
Oh, absolutely.
Our tour guide during that time as well. Unreal fella. But he goes on to say about how he was persuaded by Klopp once the deal was agreed, and he said that Klopp FaceTimed him. Interesting to know, Neil, if Klopp was to FaceTime you, what would you ask him?
Oh God! Well, I've never FaceTimed, so firstly I'll probably spend most of my time embarrassingly going, "How does this work?"
Sorry, Jürgen. Flip the camera.
Oh God, this is driving me mad, Jürgen. I'm sorry, this is hugely frustrating. Sorry about this. I'll sort it out in a minute.
Craig's in bits behind the camera.
Yeah. But Walshy, come make this work for me. And Walshy's like this. Come on, lad, this is ridiculous. But I think that when we chatted to Jürgen in the summer, we got through a load of stuff. The thing I'd love to know about Jürgen is how often he wishes he'd been a supporter at matches. So, for instance, like, how much would he have loved to have been in the Liverpool end when Sturridge scored? Like, he's got all of his job to do and all of that, but this is the 89th minute, and the striker he's just brought on does that. So is there a massive part of him that's just ever so slightly like he's lost in the moment? It's amazing, and then he can hear the Liverpool supporters, and he's thinking, oh, I really wish I'd been part of that bit for that one. It's not like he's got anything else to do at that point other than to shout at them to stay compact and try to get out the other side. Any football manager could have done that bit. So the idea of how often when he's because there's so many wonderful things that happen in football, and sometimes you get the impression some football managers, for them the most important thing is being present to the side of the pitch, and I'm sure Jürgen is the same, but as most managers give off the air that no, this is it, this is all we're invested in, whereas Jürgen gives off the air of those lads are having a fantastic time. Can I go and be with those men and women who are having the best time of their lives? I want to be one of them. And I'd love to know if occasionally he's sort of lying awake at night going, oh, I wish I knew what that was like. And I think that sort of speaks to when he does stuff like, for instance, it's clear he quite likes some fan media stuff, and I think the reason why is because in him there is the inner football supporter who thinks this game is absolutely amazing, and I'm pleased and proud to be part of it.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that Alisson comes out with is Klopp, he says he doesn't talk a lot, but he knows what to say at the right time, which I think is probably contrary to what most people would think. I think they think of Klopp as this big character who's constantly talking all the time, but it seems not to be that way.
Well, again, this sounds awful. That's sort of my impression of him having met him. To be honest, it's really strange meeting Klopp the first time, because I thought we'd get one or two things, and I've interviewed a lot of football managers, and I thought we'd get one or two vibes. I thought it'd be either the idea of the fella who comes in and he's all boys and it's big hugs and it's huge and it's quite, it's aggressive's the wrong word, but it'd be like that. Or I thought you might get completely understandably, I'm the football manager here, let's go from there. What I think comes across about him, and I've said this in the past, first of all, he's got lots of limbs. There's a lot of limbs on Klopp. When you meet him, and you're sort of reminded he is a slightly awkward fella who's 6'4", 6'5", again because you think he's probably full of physical charisma, and then you sort of realise he has to fold himself into chairs this sort of way. And that's the first thing. And the second thing though is that there's an unbelievable understated intelligence about him, like it just comes off him in waves, and that's why I can really imagine that he's not, that he's having a lot of fun with them on the training ground, and that he's good company, but it's very much about the right word at the right time. There's some excellent stuff in the Damien Hughes books that we've had Damien in, and he talks about, one of my favourites is, the metaphor of throwing tennis balls at people, that you throw one tennis ball at someone and they can catch it. You throw two at the same time, maybe they can catch them. Maybe, just maybe, they can catch three. You try and throw seven, they don't catch any of them. And I think that so much of what is good coaching is using as few words as possible to say the right thing and to say the most useful thing, and not the idea that good coaching is trying to have the coach explain to the person who's receiving the advice why the coach is clever. The aim of the coaching is to make the person who's receiving the advice be cleverer, be better. And I think that Klopp, with his understated intelligence, and this goes right the way back to the way people talk about the boot room, that Bob Paisley or Ronnie Moran could say things to you in 5 words that could tell you everything you needed to know. And that's the trick, and that's the skill. And, I think we can get lost in the idea of unbelievably long team meetings or huge tactical plans. They do go on and they are important for players, and players are probably, you know, worked harder now to be able to absorb more information than ever. But the right words at the right time makes an absolute world of difference. And I'm sure, you know, Jurgen Klopp wouldn't be where he is in the same way that all those managers who are in that top 6, you know, even top 10, that elite echelon, they wouldn't be where they were if they weren't able to say the right words at the right time. And the very best ones will be in the same way that when you make the good decisions on the pitch, the very best players, the ones who just get that right more often than others, and you also still need a bit of luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things that stood out for me is that Alisson said that Klopp was laughing and joking with him after the Leicester mistake when he came to the dressing room, which I can only imagine has a good impact on him. But in more Alisson news, further Alisson news today, you're getting all of the Alisson today. It's actually his birthday, Neil. He turns 26 today. So does Bobby Firmino as well. He turns 27 today. So
Bobby Firmino wants to talk about this. Bob wants to talk about this. Bobby Firmino signed that contract at Liverpool, and I know you can say that contract on with. I didn't realise he was 27. I had it. He was a little bit younger in my head. I know we can say, listen, contracts can be broken and players can decide that they want to move on if the right offer comes in. But there's every chance that we now get Bobby Firmino's peak years. And I think that's really, it's a quite wonderful thing that we get this footballer, this unbelievably talented Brazilian footballer. We shouldn't overlook this. There's loads of downsides of modern football in terms of people's access and the ability to go to games. But there's something really rather wonderful in the idea that there's this Brazilian fella who has made his life firstly in Germany and then secondly in Liverpool. You know, and that's one of my favourite things about Lucas, is that by the time Lucas left Liverpool, you know, if we allow his adult life to be the age of 18 to 30, 31, well, he'd spent 10 of the 12 years of his adult life in Liverpool. He's a Liverpudlian by that point, and that's the way I feel about Firmino. You know, I think that if he sees out this contract and goes right the way through, he's a Liverpool person, a Liverpool player. He's become a Liverpudlian. He's gone through that journey for me, and you know, so many of the best Liverpudlians like Lucas are the ones who move here and get on board with the city. And so I'm really, you know, when I saw that he was 27, I thought, wow, you know, let's say even if he just stays till he's 31, that we really have had the best years of his career, and he's signed a contract that takes him up to that milestone. As I say, it may not be honoured, but I think it's something just very quietly you can be proud of.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the sort of Brazilians in the Premier League thing within that, because I think it's something that people do get very excited about, and I'm interested to know, who do you think is the Brazilian who's had the most Premier League appearances?
It obviously isn't Lucas, otherwise you'd have told me it was Lucas. Is it Lucas?
It is Lucas.
It is Lucas, there you go then. Lucas had the most. Oh, wow.
I was looking at before, there's some very exciting Brazilians on the list. There's also a couple who I have absolutely no idea about, but I imagine their fans were excited when they signed them. So and we've got a good couple of them now. We've also got a good couple of shows coming out today. We've got what we call History Part 2, the 01-02 season. Great season, I remember it like the back of my hand. I was about 7 at the time, so yeah.
Do you remember it?
No, not
Absolutely,
at all.
okay.
There's also the Coach Home out, which I'm sure Neil would wax lyrical about. I know it's one of your favourite shows, isn't it? I love
doing the finding out what all the teams are up to, but John's hosting it today, and it should be Cardiff, Newcastle, and Burnley. Why not Burnley? Always Burnley. Cardiff, Newcastle, and Burnley. I'm really excited about the idea. This is an awful sentence, so I apologise if any fans of these teams are watching. I'm really excited that it sort of feels possible to me that both Cardiff and Huddersfield could get fewer than 20 points, and I'm just sort of excited about it from a statistical sort of basis. In the way in which things like this excite me. Also, if you haven't, because why would you possibly, check out the Championship table. I think from 1st to 14th it's covered by 6 points.
Wow.
I love it when the Championship goes wild. Right now the Championship is mad. Check it out in your own spare time. See little statistical anomalies in there. You spend that quality time like I would have done when I was 7. I don't know all about the 01-02 season. I can't believe this, lads. Go on, what else?
Yeah, and the last thing that's out today is Under the Lights, which is our Champions League preview, and I believe that Craig's going to lash a clip in at the end of this. So, but that has been Talking Reds for the day. Neil, I've had a really good time.
Good, that's the aim of the enterprise. I hope everybody watching has as well.
Forward on Salah, you feel as though he's only got 65 minutes now at the weekend. He got subbed. Looks to me as though he could do with a big goal in a big game. I think he gets his goal against Watford. He nearly gets his back heel, look better after the back heel. But you sort of would think maybe it's not just that he needs any goal. Some strikers, Sean Rogers was saying to me earlier today on the review, you know, some strikers need any goal. Think about Michael Owen. You know, any goal, it's fine, I'm back, I'm sound, it's all rocking and rolling. You sort of wondered if Salah needs either a big goal in a big game, away in the Champions League at Napoli, could be that, or he needs a big type of goal, an 18-yarder, bent round with his left foot. I would start him in this. I would start him no matter what. I would start him knowing I'm starting him at City for this reason.
Yeah, definitely. And it ties into what Josh is saying with rhythm. I think Salah starts this game, and if he gets his goal, I think we'd definitely be looking at getting him off around 60, 70 minutes, depending on how the game is going. But yeah, you saw after Southampton when he scores that goal, just on his face, there was a bit of relief there, even though it wasn't really a rough patch or anything, but he's frustrated himself. The main thing is the expectations he sets on himself, I think, not what's happening on the outside. He has his own standards that he wants to reach, and you can tell a little bit of frustrations there when he's not kind of hitting his heights. And the most important thing is he's getting into situations to put away chances, and the finishing will come. It is one of those players that has to be, I think, like all great strikers, they get in that rhythm of putting away their goals, and that's how they sort of get the best out of themselves. So I'm not worried at all, and I think this is exactly the sort of game that he'd be really looking for, a European away where we should be looking to break fast and try and get that front three back firing together.